Hello, welcome to the Coach's Corner, brought to you by Pulaski Electric System. I'm Steve Pierce, your host. Alongside me, Bobcat head football coach David O'Connor. Coach, 47-12 winner last Friday night, big district game right here against Lewis County.
A big win and a quality win for our football team. It's something our kids have been looking forward to ever since last year. We got beat over there last year, 51-28. It was good revenge.
Yeah, you know, Lewis County come in, you talked about it all week. Coach Sharp does a really good job. Here we are, that was a 9th game into the season. It was good to play a well-coached team. It was going to fight you hard for 4 quarters.
It was, and they did. You know, it was a good battle for 4 quarters, and our kids fortunately came out on the good end of that, and a lot because of the conditioning and things we do throughout the year.
Coach, we talked after the ball game last Friday night about the offensive line, and you told us that we'd have to break down the film. After you broke down the film, tell us about the play of the offensive line.
I felt like we had some really good plays. Probably one of our better games of the year. I know that Dylan Gibson graded out really well. Tyler Gatling graded out really well as Blake Sanders. You know, those 3 guys did a really good job, and Kelly Donnelly's graded out well all year. So, you know, those guys really had great games.
The offense seemed to be in a good rhythm all night long, very balanced.
It was very balanced, and a lot of that is due to Al Cobb getting the ball to the people and being a great distributor.
Last week, Coach, you know, there were some distractions, obviously, that happened during the week. I know you had to be proud of the focus that the team had whenever they took the field Friday night.
That's exactly right. When the ball kicked off on Friday night, our guys were all about business, taking care of business, and winning a football game. And you know, we had some struggles early defensively, making some adjustments to the things that because Lewis County had a great game plan as well, and we had to make those adjustments. But we eventually got them made, and then after their second series, they didn't score again, and we pretty much controlled the game from that point on.
Coach, swapping over to the defense, Dontarius Gilbert, big night.
He had 2 big interceptions and had a shot at a third, you know, and the one he didn't get, he made an unbelievable break on. He goes from the center of the field all the way to the sideline and just misses his 3rd interception.
Coach, facing a wing T offense, the linebackers the other night, they were really active, had a really physical ball.
Sure, a really good job. I thought Ben Bates did a great job. Chris Hugh always does a great job. Of course, the other 2 inside backers, Zach Voss and Brandon Houston, they always show up to play. And it was a great effort by those guys. You know, we had a few breakdowns against the option game that Lewis County was running, and that gave us some problems, but eventually we got that straightened out.
Coach, great crowd on hand here the other night.
I felt like there was a great crowd on the home side. I felt like there was a really poor crowd on the other side, and, you know, there's not much we can do about that, but you know, as far as the 12th man for the Bobcats, I think that was really the difference in the game. You know, when our kids turn around, they see our crowd, and when Lewis County kids turn around on their side and see their crowd, I'm sure it's a big letdown for them.
Changing gears and going to this week, we've got to travel to Page. Another district game, the final game of the season. There's a lot on the line this week.
There is a lot on the line. You know, it's all for the 12 AA championship. We win, it's ours, and they win, I guess it's theirs.
It is interesting how that could play out. Right now, the Bobcats are undefeated in district play. If they suffered a loss to Page.
Steve, I cannot believe you just said we may lose.
Would y'all excuse us just a second while I turn his chair over? Coach, you brought up an interesting point about if the Bobcats take care of business this Friday night, it's all theirs.
It is. You know, I've been looking at the TSSAA website, and it gives a really good breakdown. If you want to get on and home, go to TSSAA.org, look at it. It shows the football playoff scenario. You can get on there and really check it out, get a good view of what's going on and how things may shake out after Friday's game. And but it gives us, I think, a pretty good seed.
One thing that I wanted to talk about for a minute, Page suffered a defeat last Thursday night to Marshall County, but we both know that you really can't judge this Page team by that ball game. It's a very, very well coached, very good Page team that we travel to play Friday night.
That's right. In high school football, anybody can win on any given night, and it's all about matchups, and really who comes to play, and what you never know what's going on in a 16 or 17-year-old kid's mind that may make them play great one night or poor one night.
Let's break down Page a little bit. What do we look for offensively in Page?
Offensively, they got a really good quarterback. You know, at one time he lived here in Pulaski. Zach Mizell, he's a great job. I compare him a lot with, say, the good quarterback, the young quarterback they have at Texas A&M. You know, a guy that throws the ball, an extremely strong arm, but really active on his feet. You know, he suffered a little bit of an ankle injury last Thursday at Marshall County, but I do expect him to play. He's a gamer.
What about defensively? What kind of look do you think they'll give us?
Defensively, they're going to give us a cover 4 shell, I'd say, something to try to keep our passing game under control. They're going to try to minimize our big plays, and they're going to move around a lot up front. They're really aggressive up front. They have 2 or 3 guys on the D-line that play really well, and they've got a middle linebacker that makes a lot of plays.
Moving on to special teams, I know after the ball game the other night, me and you talked about how special teams not making a play here or there can cost you in a big ball game.
That's exactly right. You know, and the difference between winning and losing in a tight games, the margin is very small, and you can't make those mistakes continuously and expect to win tight games.
I was over at practice yesterday, and I know, as y'all do every week, a lot of work on fundamentals yesterday.
Yesterday, yes, it was. Monday and Tuesdays are what we call work days. And they're grinds. There's nothing necessarily fun about them. You know, it's about going out and getting a lot of practice in and getting yourselves ready. And then it's more about game time or game things on Wednesdays and Thursdays.
Coach Stain talking about the practices that the Bobcats go through. There's a lot of people on that team that contribute to that win on Friday night.
There are a lot of contributors, you know, and I'm glad you brought that up, Steve. You know, when you come out to the game on Friday night, you'll see Al Cobb throwing a lot of touchdown passes. You'll see Kenton Baker making catches, Lanico Walker making great runs, and those great defense players, Ben Bates tackles, Chris Few tackles, Dontaris Gilbert with interceptions. But there's a lot of kids that you really don't get to see what they do on Friday nights because some of them are still younger and they hadn't quite worked their way into playing time yet. But I'm going to tell you what, Monday through Thursday, they do a great job in practice getting our varsity guys ready to play in the game. They're what we call our scout offense and our scout defense, and those guys are just as important as the guys you see on Friday nights.
Yeah, great points. And, you know, talking to some of the players offensively and defensively, they truly believe that the offense will not face a better defense, nor the defense face a better offense than they face every week in practice.
That's exactly. When we do ones-on-ones, we expect to have our best against our best 11 offensive players against our best 11 defensive players. And usually our kids come out feeling at the end of the week that the people we faced in practice were better than the people we faced in the games.
Coach, let's talk a little bit about some of these freshmen and sophomores and even a few juniors sprinkled in there. Let's talk about the play of some of them at practice.
You know, it's kids like Kobe Beats, a big lineman. He's not ready to play yet on the varsity. He's still got a lot of improvement to do, but he is one of those guys that really get us better every week. He gets so many snaps in practice every week that it's unbelievable. He does offense, he does defense, and then when he comes out to the game on Friday, I know he don't play a lot, but he does a good job. Just like Tyson Marks does the same thing. Another really good football player, Jordan Tucker, a running back, does the same thing. You know, we've got several of those guys that are going to be really good football players. I think David Dale, Keith Hayes, offensive lineman, that they get better every week. Will Turner, another offensive lineman, he's a center. He's going to be a really good football player. Those are the guys that even Malik Lawrence, you know, a defensive back receiver that's not quite got his spot yet, but next year or the next year, those guys you're going to hear a lot about.
Yeah, you know, you being here as long as you have now, every kid you have in the system, how much easier does that make it for you and your coaching staff to start maybe at a little bit of an advanced level with these kids?
It's big time advanced the next year. You know, when we start spring practice the next year, we've got a good idea of who's going to be stepping in and filling those roles. Now, do we have starters named by spring practice? No way. You know, we're still moving starters around right now. We're still trying to get all the pieces of the puzzle, so to speak, put in the right place so we can have our best football team.
And that's one thing, Coach, that a lot of people don't realize is every team that you face brings different challenges, different matchups.
That's exactly right. And so, therefore, we move kids around sometime to try to give ourselves an advantage in those matchups. You know, that there may be a week we'll face a tight end that's going to be just an SEC type blocker or something of that nature, and we may move Trey Beats out to a defensive end from his 3 technique as a defensive tackle, or the same thing vice versa. We may move Blake Sanders into a guard as opposed to being the left tackle that he normally lines up at.
You know, Coach, the big thing you brought up is teamwork, and I know you hear that a lot. But the one thing that's been impressive for me, and I've heard it a lot from the fans, is how y'all truly are operating as a team. Somebody else stepping up, whether it be in practice or in a game, to make the team, to make the play.
That's exactly right. You know, we talk to our kids, and even as coaches, we talk about all the time. Everybody's got a role to play. You know, this year this game, your role may not be the same as it is next week. You know, for example, if a defense is really going to come in here to stop our passing game, then our running backs' roles are going to be much larger because we're probably going to run the football more. If they're coming in here where they're going to be a hard running team, big physical up front, we may take out a defensive guy out of our secondary, bring in an extra linebacker or defensive front man to try to stop the run game. And just like with those scout team players I was talking about earlier, their role this year or this week maybe is to make our offense or our defense that's going to be playing on Friday better, and everybody has a role and everybody's got to do their job.
Well, there you have it. You know, that's teamwork. It's a team coming together.
That's exactly right. When it's just like everybody's not the president of the United States. You know, you only have so many chiefs. You got to have a lot of Indians in there as well. And
we got them. Coach, it's an easy trip up the page. You know, one thing I have heard that the Bobcat Nation, we've talked about it time and time again, how they travel. They follow the Bobcats right up I-65 to 840, and it's easy to get there. We need a big crowd Friday night, 7 o'clock.
It could be big. It could be the first undefeated team we've had here in a while. I know Coach Smith was over to school the other day talking about his undefeated team back in the mid-'90s, and you know, and he was talking about like we had a shot, you know, and he was really excited about that, and I'm excited about that if we go in there and play well. You know, I don't want to go in there necessarily and play bad and win. I want to go in there and play like the Bobcats should play.
Yeah, it's a beautiful stadium. It's right on the school up there, plenty of seating. Bobcat band to go will be there, cheerleaders, and the coaches and the football team.
Yes, we will. We'll look for it to be a big night.
That's 7 o'clock this Friday night at Page High School. The Bobcats try to finish a season 10-0 and get ready for the playoffs. We'll know more about that Saturday morning, but we got to take care of business Friday night.
The only thing we can do is take care of what we were supposed to do.
There you go, Coach. This has been the Coach's Corner, brought to you by Pulaski Electric System. I'm your host, Steve Pierce, with Bobcat head coach David O'Connor. We'll see you next week.